In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the 41st Elite Coruscant Landing Platform Clone Trooper for the Vintage Collection. He was released pretty early on at the beginning of the TVC 2.0 line, and I think he was the first repacked Revenge of the Sith action figure we got in 2.0. I talked about this previously in his Black Series counterpart video. Third time's the charm, and it took Hasbro 3 times to get this action figure right, and it was probably about as close as it was ever going to get. It is open to debate exactly what is the best Coruscant landing platform clone. I would argue that the antenna mold still might retain that title, but this one's still really good as well, and I'm happy to have 2 of them in my collection here. So I actually got both of these from Tongori back in 2019. I got one at first. I forget specifically which one I got first. And then a few months later, I ended up placing another order, and then I included an extra one within that order. So let's just take a closer look at them. So Hasbro did update this action figure a lot besides the paint apps. Let's look at the runny change of the Black Series action figure here to compare the updates. So of course the gray is a much different color, but like right here you got the extra lines on his chest. The gray is much more prevalent on the belt and on the belly there. Then trying to see what else there is. The ankles were painted the appropriate color. And yeah, I think the thermal detonator is supposed to be white, like on the back of the antenna mold there. But Hasbro just painted everything the same color for the Black Series figure. So those are pretty much the main updates. And besides that, the helmet sculpt I think is, for the most part, totally new. And it's a much more harder plastic this time around. But as you can see, it's not without its errors. The alignment, especially at the dome part there, is way off, and I have to admit that's always kind of bothered me a little bit more than paint app differences. It's not the end of the world, and you know, I still like this action figure for what it is, but it would have been nice to see the alignment a little bit better on that helmet. And I think that was a common problem with all these releases. At least the 2 here I have seem to have that same problem, and just from other samples I've seen online, I think that was a fairly common thing. Of course, this is the skinny mold that at this point had been used for about 8 years. It has since been retired. It does have the removable helmet, and I think this was one of the very first action figures in the TVC line to utilize the face printing tech. But thankfully, on the samples of the action figure I have, they turned out all right. But I would recommend watching out for that and being careful. You never know. Talked about this before, about how a lot of times when Hasbro takes a painted face action figure and converts it into the photoreal tech, oftentimes it doesn't turn out the best. Like the eyes could be misaligned, the mouth could be off, and it just doesn't look right anyway. It's better when Hasbro does an entirely new head sculpt from the ground up. Articulation is the exact same. The super articulation, ball joint the head, and then hinged shoulders, hinged elbows, hinged wrist, joint the torso, then hinged hips, hinged knees, and hinged ankles. Weapons, pretty simple. But what's interesting is on the Black Series action figures, at least the ones I have, Hasbro actually had more paint apps on the carbine here. You can see they did the silver paint here, and then the gold dot at the end of the stock. But on the TVC action figure here, it doesn't include that. Of course, it's possible since I got these through Tungori, they may not be entirely accurate, but I wouldn't be surprised if Hasbro would do something like that. Just another paint difference I'm noticing real quick is at the back of the hands there. It has the gray paint, while these ones do not. And here's the first release here. But I mentioned that the plastic was cast in a much harder plastic this time around, while these three Black Series ones were much more squishy. This one is doesn't have much flex to that at all, which I appreciate. But I think that's about all I can really tell you about this clone. Just compare them to his Black Series counterparts here real quick. The first attempt and the third attempt. Then the second attempt here. Interesting that the second attempt they went with the extra weathering, while on the first and the third one here they did not. But would I recommend this clone for your collection? I definitely would. Of course, if you're a big fan of Clone Troopers, the 41st Elite, Coruscant Landing Platform clones, anything of that sort, I would say he's a must-have. Is he the definitive version? That's open to debate. Like I said, I personally prefer the antenna mold the most out of all of these, but I still greatly appreciate these action figures. Glad they're in my collection. I'm sure a lot of people would like to see them updated in the newest clone sculpt. I think that would be an interesting interpretation. But we'll see what the future holds. And as far as price is concerned, most of the time I see this go brand new for in the $20, $25 range, which I don't think is too bad for this action figure at all. So if you don't have one in your collection, I think it's about time you go ahead and add one. And one more thing I'll mention is previously I did a video of a collection tour of all my Phase 2 clones. I forgot to include one action figure in particular in that group, and that's the Revenge of the Sith AT-RT Trooper. I saw that he was tucked behind some of my other clone troopers on the shelf, and I thought, oh, I wish I caught that before I filmed the video, but I figure I'd give him a quick spotlight here. Of course, I brought him out with the rest of them here. But he deserves his place. But with that being said, I think now I can officially say we're caught up with reviewing all my Phase 2 clones in my collection here. So after this, the next series of videos will be something new. And we're just about at the end of catching up on my entire collection, which I hope to have done here within the next few months at the time of this video. So I look forward to that. But I think before we jump into the next collection video, we'll do a couple extra outlier action figures here and there. But stay tuned for all that. But anyways, that concludes this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for playing more in the future. There's always more to come. If you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate your support, and check out the links in the description if you haven't done so already. Of course, as always, thanks for watching.